What's up, meta nerds? Today's video is going to be all about the B-1 battle droid. I think it's pretty safe to say that these are one of the most iconic things to come out of the Star Wars prequels. The Star Wars animated TV show made these guys even more lovable. I've had some fun at their expense by calling them the comic relief droid, but there really is so much more to these droids that we all know and love. So with that, let's jump right into it. The B-1 battle droid is also known as the standard battle droid, but if you're a clone, you probably called him a clanker. Almost every time you see the CIS army, you're gonna see some B-1s. And that's because just the sheer amount of these droids that were produced. Now the number's a little hard to pin down, and it depends on if you're looking at Canon or Legends material. But the Canon estimate always comes out much smaller than the Legends one. The Canon estimate ranges from over 100 million all the way up to 100 billion. But the Legends estimate is really insane. That estimate can go as high as 1 quintillion. That's a 1 with 18 zeros. Now it's important to understand that this huge number was really the main feature of the B-1. In other words, the B-1 strength does not come from wrist rockets, flamethrowers, shields, saws, or self-destruct mode. Instead, this massive amount of droids meant that they could rain down massive amounts of bolts from their blasters. This sheer number also has a psychological effect on many enemies. Our perception of them is a little bit skewed because the movies and shows often follow Jedi. And of course, a Jedi has a range of abilities that makes a B-1 seem less threatening. But it's important to remember that large amounts of these B-1s definitely struck fear into the civilians that lived in cities that the CIS took over, as well as being able to strike fear even into some clones. The B-1 was manufactured by Bactoid Combat Automata, a company which was owned by the Techno Union. A B-1 fresh off the assembly line had a height of 1.93 meters, which works out to about 6 feet 4 inches. And through some awesome, maybe not coincidence of the Force, Qui-Gon Jinn / actor Liam Neeson also has an exact height of 6 feet 4 inches. Even at this height, the B-1 was a little scrawny, at 65 kilograms, or about 143 pounds. Its armament included an E5 blaster rifle, SE-14 blaster rifle, and thermal detonators. Now that being said, there are definitely a whole bunch of variants of the B-1 which use a wider range of weapons, but we're going to do a separate droid variants video, so I'll make sure that this video is all about the standard B-1. Now the first time that we see these guys is in episode 1, during the invasion of Naboo. But wait, you're thinking, isn't the first time that we actually see these droids back on the Trade Federation ship with raised blasters on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan? Well, those were actually the predecessor to the B-1. They were OOM series battle droids, and they had specialized programming for different roles. We see them during the Clone Wars TV show also, with yellow markings being command battle droids, blue markings meaning it's a pilot, and red meaning that they work security. So with their first appearance on Naboo, we also saw a fatal flaw with the original models, mainly that they were all connected to a droid control ship. So like we see in the movie when Anakin takes it out, no more signal is being sent, and all the droids lose their Wi-Fi connection, and thus lost whatever consciousness they might have had. Which always made me wonder, what happens when a droid goes to that eternal slumber? Do dead B-1s dream of electric sheep? But this loss on Naboo helped to improve the B-1, as the Trade Federation made sure that this would never happen again. In order to make sure that the B-1s could operate independent of a droid control ship, they were upgraded with onboard intelligence systems and packed full of new programming. With these upgrades, the B-1 could aspire to become warship crewers, gunners, pilots, and even emergency responders. Now this sounds great, but it had one big side effect. Basically, the upgrades weren't enough, and these new requirements were pushing their computing abilities to the limit. Over the course of the Clone Wars, this got even worse. Whenever the B-1 would run diagnostics or memory defragmentation routines, it would often erase this specialty programming, and the cognitive modules that allowed them to be independent of a command ship suffered from data corruption and system errors, both leading to shutdowns and what's described as behavioral anomalies, which is just a CIS technician's way to say that they're just too damn chatty. Grievous hated it, but as viewers of the Clone Wars animated TV show, if you're like me, I love that they have different personalities and the humorous banter. So it's kind of funny to think that the only reason these droids have so much personality is because they're so damn stressed out by their job. They're just saying whatever pops into their head at this point. But back to their history, at the very start of the Clone Wars and the Battle of Geonosis, it's said that 1 million B-1 units were used. After this, the B-1 makes an appearance on almost every battlefield and was very effective against the Night Sister clan on Dathomir. Of course, there were other droids that helped them, but the B-1 did hold it down here. And just because they were officially deactivated after the end of the Clone Wars, we still see a ton of them popping up all over the galaxy. A group of Jedi that survived Order 66 end up accidentally reactivating some B-1s, and the Jedi were able to set it up so that these droids ended up fighting against Vader's troops. The Empire was also involved in activating some B-1s, but these mostly just served as security droids. And we see a bunch of B-1s in the Rebels TV show being used by the old super tactical droid Kalani. Vader also personally used B-1s as a way to test out some new bounty hunters. We also see them being used by a whole bunch of different criminal syndicates and mercenary groups. The Geonosian Geyser Delso, someone who actually helped to design a lot of these droids, reactivated an entire foundry in an attempt to fight off the Empire. Spoiler alert, it didn't work out. It was shut down by Vader in the 501st. And speaking of Vader, he's actually the one who stumbles across one of the strangest types of B1 battle droids. Basically, the last Geonosian queen hooked herself up to a mechanical womb. And from that womb, she was able to create these kind of freakish B1 battle droid Geonosian hybrids. Have fun trying to sleep after seeing these monsters. And while we're on the subject of terrifying monsters, we might as well talk about Mr. Bones. Bones here is the latest version of a B1 that we have in canon. This New Republic era droid was modified and reconstructed by Temmin Wexley. He was a teenage boy that grew up all alone on the planet of Akiva, and he found his future best friend under some catacombs beneath his city. Bones here was an average B1, but is now adorned with bones and augmented with all kinds of upgrades like blades and armor and a more complex personality matrix. Now, perhaps because of the reasons we talked about earlier, basically that the CIS battle droids were so chatty because of all the little upgrades they tried to cram into its head, the upgrades that Bones received turned him into a homicidal maniac. He sings and whistles and dances while he kills things, and has amazing quotes like, "A hug is like violence made of love." I definitely love that we saw a B1 in the new canon material. So we've learned all about the B1s from their humble beginnings on Naboo, through the Clone Wars, through the Empire, and into the New Republic era. But before we end this video, I definitely want to take some time to talk about some weird and interesting facts about the B1. It's said that their elongated heads on top of skinny necks was supposed to be an imitation of Geonosians. Geonosians, of course, working in so many foundries that made the B1s. The Neimoidians, on the other hand, were very superstitious and believed that the B1 battle droids' heads were intentionally designed to imitate the shape of a withered Neimoidian skull. But they weren't alone, as many different species found their design disturbing. On the other side of that, though, we know that they were also iconic within the Star Wars universe because the young Boba Fett actually had a little B1 figurine that he played with while he was on Kamino. There's a short story that explained how an ARC trooper was able to convince a Separatist metalworker to basically change up the metal recipe used for the B1. This made them so weak that they would actually crumble, and was so effective that it made it so that the kill rate for an average clone rose from 20 to 50. It's kind of funny that the B1 ended up being the face of the droid army, considering that the Trade Federation had pretty low expectations from them in the beginning. Originally, the Trade Federation just planned to have a whole bunch of B1s on their ships in hopes that their great numbers would scare off pirates. Behind the scenes, Lucas actually had visions of them being giants, at least twice the size of humans, and he was said to have developed the body proportions of the B1 from the style of African sculptures. Well, that's it for our B1 battle droid lore. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and go ahead and leave a comment below. Did I miss any cool facts about the B1? And tell me what you guys thought about the B1. Love them, hate them, or anywhere in between. You can also always make suggestions for future videos, and be sure to subscribe for even more Star Wars content. We're making videos like this every single day. But most important, remember, may the Force be with you. Always.